All right, what is up, everyone? My name is Chris, and today, this is a different video. Obviously, you see I don't have the whiteboard. I don't have any notes in front of me either. Literally, I'm just going to be talking about the 1920 season from my perspective. This was the best season I've ever seen the Flyers play, and I'll explain that. If you know me personally, and you've obviously followed me on Instagram and we talk and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. I became a fan of the 2012-13 season. I've said that many times, and the Flyers were bad that year. It was one of the worst times for me to become a fan. I was 9 years old. I started liking hockey when I was 8. I started to watch in February of that season because the season started in January. I went to my first game at the end of March, and then the next season came around, and the first game I went to that season was November. And it was, I believe, November 16th. And I remember it so vividly because it was that season Giroux didn't score until November, and the game that I went to was the game Giroux scored. It was against the Oilers. It was 2-1. I remember the play so vividly. He went up the ice. He cut in. It was 2-1. It was a 2-on-2. He cut in and he ripped it high blocker. I believe Devin Dubnyk was on the Oilers at the time. And oh my God, it was a snipe. The Wells Fargo went nuts. It was great. And the Flyers won the game 4-2. That was the first game I ever went to that they won. Because the one that I went to previously in March of 2013, they lost to the Islanders in a shootout 4-3. God, it just haunts me when I think about that because they really should have won. They had a 2-0 lead. Blew it. Mike Knuble scored in that game. And Nabokov was in net for the Islanders. Brizgalov was in net for the Flyers. Anyways, that went on. And the next season, 13-14, the Flyers are pretty good that season. They get more contributing from the veteran players like Giroux. Wayne Simmons had a great season. Voracek had a nice year. Flyers make the playoffs. They lose in 7 of the Rangers. And then the next season, 14-15, this is when I had the partial season ticket plan with my dad. It was like a 12-game plan at the time, and it was 12 weekend home games. We both of us had a couple good games. Nashville, that was a good game. That was a game when, if you remember this, Rob Zepp was in net. It was a shootout. Flyers won 3-2. And when we left, there was like 6 inches, or I don't even know how much. I was young, but there was a lot of snow on the ground, I'll say that. And it took us like 3 hours to get home. It was an afternoon game. And I didn't get home that night until I think like 7 o'clock at night. The game was at 1. And obviously you guys know the game usually ends around 3:34, 3:30, 3:45, like 4 o'clock. So yeah, it took us a long time to get home. So after that, there was a lot of good games. The Red Wings, there was a couple good games against the Red Wings. Colorado, we had a game against. There was, I believe, 1 or 2 against the Rangers. And then we ended up going to 5 more games after that. So 4 more home games and 1 road game. We went to Nassau Coliseum on MLK Day, and the Flyers got spanked 7-4. That was Kutz's -5 game, and that was just ridiculous. I've never seen an arena like that. It was pretty cool because that was the last time the Flyers ever played there, so I could say I was there. So that was pretty cool. Even though they lost, I've only been to 3 road games. But then obviously 15-16, they make the playoffs. Better team. That's Goss's Bears rookie season. They're pretty good. And then they lose in the first round to the Capitals in 6. And they were down 3-0. Almost came back, and they ended up losing. 16-17, 50th anniversary year. They weren't great. They weren't really a good team. They struggled. They didn't make the playoffs. 17-18. This is when I really started with the YouTube. I've always had the channel, but I never posted as much as I do now, and like in-depth stuff. I never did this when I was a kid. But when I actually, started doing it in 17-18, I was kind of just like, all right, let's continue with this. I only did like 9 or 10 games that year. I just never really had the time. I had a lot of schoolwork. It was my freshman year of high school. And then the next season, started doing it again. Only did 9 or 10 videos. I had a lot of schoolwork and stuff like that. I did a sport at school, so I kind of I had really no time to even watch the game. Sometimes I get home at like 8:30 at night coming from school, because of away games and stuff like that. So sometimes that was kind of a lot. And as I said, I only had 10. And then this season, junior year, I stopped playing that sport just so I could continue with this because I love this stuff. And I also cover my hockey team at school, so I wanted to have more time for that. So I stopped, and I had so much more time to be doing the hockey team and the flyer stuff. So that's when it really started, was this season because I had the most time. And that's when the Flyers were really good. So that helped as well. Obviously, when the team is really good, you always want to keep pumping stuff out. And I'm not saying that I stopped because they were bad. It was just because I just really didn't have much time. And I also kind of looked at the game a little bit differently than I do now. So I kind of had to adjust myself with the way I watch the game, the way I react, and things like that. But this was the best season I've ever seen the Flyers play, easily. And as I said before, I have no notes, no stats, nothing in front of me. This is literally just me talking about this season. They started out, they go to Prague. They win 2 games. They win that game. I couldn't believe that they actually beat you. I honestly thought that they would have went over there and they would have lost just because of the way that the preseason game went. And when they lost to the team over in Czech, and then it was just, oh God. And the way the preseason went, I was like, all right. And it sucked because that day I was actually in school when the game started because I get out at school around 3 o'clock. And you guys know the game started at 2 on a Friday afternoon, so I couldn't really watch it. Thankfully, the Flyers won, and I saw the remainder of the game. And then they win the home opener. So, all right, there we go. And then they go out to Western Canada. And then I remember it so specifically because we talked about it on the podcast. And I just remember saying to Amadeo, I was like, dude, they're going to win at least 2 of these games. Lose all 3 of them. And then they lose the home game against Dallas. I was actually at that game, my first game of the season. And I was like, what the hell, man? And then they're 2-3-1 at that point. What happens? They keep winning. That was when they blew out Vegas at home, and they continued to play really good. Kind of lost a little bit. And they had some really good games. I think that game versus Washington, where they lost in a shootout 2-1, was one of their most complete games they played for majority of the beginning of the year. And that month in November, they were unreal. Best team in the league. They left November with the most points. They were so good. They were playing unreal, man. Unbelievable hockey in that month. December, better. They're basically playing like the same. And then you hit the West road trip all out in California, and they were just awful. They lost I think 3 or 4 in a row. They all had 2 points in 6 or 7 games. They were god awful. They come home and they start winning again. And then the thing was is that they started to play better on the road. It wasn't like if they were to go out on the road, they'd have to go out 1 or 2 games, and then they would win. So they would play so good, and they would just continue to play good at home, good on the road, and they just continued it throughout the whole rest of the month and the season. And then in January they start playing good, and then February hits, and they were just unreal in February. Obviously, you guys know what happened at the beginning of March and everything that happened with the coronavirus and how the season got shut down. No matter what happens, this is the best season I've ever seen them play in my life. Obviously, I'm hoping for a better next season with everything that happened today with the AHL. We don't really know what's going to happen now with the NHL. I personally think they should just cancel the season because it's going to be too much. And at this point, if you're trying to push everything back, it's just going to ruin next season too. So if you want a full next season, we might as well just stop, which I don't really want it either, but I guess that's just how it's going to be. But as for this season, one of the best seasons, really when I started my full coverage. I've had a lot of good opportunities with getting into the Flyers media and everything like that. And there's a lot of people that have done me really good. Amadeo, I can't do that podcast without you, Jamie, Yariv, Jordan Hall, all of these, Sam Carchidi, everyone that I've talked to, everyone's been, open arms, just welcoming me in and really helping me and, help me with my coverage and stuff like that. And I just can't thank all of you enough, really. I started writing for Flyers Nitty Gritty, Joey with DP4. We've just been doing so much stuff. Obviously with the channel, everything, as I said, the podcast, my website, The Flyers Fix, we started that. My Instagram's been getting a lot of good support too. There's been a lot, and then it's a memorable season for sure. So again, I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for literally everything for this season. It's been a great year. And sadly, it didn't end it obviously didn't end the way any of us wanted. And that goes for every NHL team because we would be playing right now. But regardless, it was a great season. And I really did enjoy this season. I think the Flyers, as I said, it was the best hockey I've ever seen this team play. So remember, God, I hate doing this, but remember, guys, podcasts, articles, those links are on my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.